record my talk and my meditation, and then I unrecord. So this is a quote from Albert Einstein. You can hear me, right?
We can hear you. I'm not sure if it's recording yet.
It is. Thank you. There are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle. And Jesus made the same point with these words. Because you are neither hot or cold, but lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. All great mystics agree there is no middle ground. Life is a miracle or it isn't. No middle ground. You're either hot or cold. No middle ground. When we eliminate the middle ground, we start to see clearly. So I want to share with you over the next few weeks or whenever I am speaking to you, some of the means, some of the ways into the mystery of a mystical life. It is a mystery. It's clearly a mystery. It's not dogmatic, and it is not written down, and it is not what is the mystery for me is not the mystery for you. The discovery of what is your path comes out of your own practice. Remember that. So I want to say something about, well, most of us who have ever taken a philosophy course, that we are taught that our way of thinking started with Pythagoras. It's about 500 BC in Greece. You know, we learned this Pythagorean mathematics in high school. And we were taught that that's where he basically began. He was a mathematician, but he was a scientist. But he was also aware of the mystery from which he got his ideas. And I want to say something about Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. I think because he attempted to be really specific and really outline a metaphysical, practical Christianity of a relationship with God, the threefold nature, divine mind, your mind, manifestation, all this is outlined very clearly. He became very much intent on defining it, what unity teaches. It all began with him having been a mystic. He said that unity is a mysticism. And then he defined it and said more like a practical mysticism. I want you to have taken that in, because so many of us have become, over the years, really good metaphysicians. We know the rules, or the law even. And here is juxtaposed to that you could say on one hand is the science, the math, the metaphysical science. You apply this principle and you will manifest. I played a recording of Johnny Coleman, and you really got the quintessential metaphysician. I mean, she would stand in front of her 5,000 people congregation, and she would be teaching the metaphysics of prosperity, of how to manifest. And there's a really funny, just to give you a little example of that, she was always dressed, absolutely dressed. And she would joke on the platform about her wardrobe. But there's this story where she is with Catherine Ponder. And Catherine Ponder, for many of you, is the queen of prosperity. She wrote a book, The Millionaires of the Bible. I don't know how many of you are familiar with Catherine Ponder. But anyway, these two grand ladies were together at an INTA conference. I was 24 years old, and I met Catherine Ponder walking into our classroom with a fur coat over her shoulder. I mean, that's the image that I kept. But these two women met at an INTA conference, and they were taking a break from it all, and they went to a shopping center, and there was a jewelry store. And there is supposed to have been this dialogue between these two women, where Catherine was looking with great desiring eyes. And Johnny watches that, and she says, "Stop it." She said, "Stop. You declare that you're in the flow of God's prosperity and diamonds will fall into your hands." She said, I have a drawer full of diamonds. People want to give me that. It's not my kind of interpretation of the unity teaching, but we are moving into the mystery, not the application of the law, but the application of the mystery of mysticism that says the path before you is joyfully outlined for you. You're not walking into the dark, but it is to be understood as your path. So I want to read something about Myrtle Fillmore. I didn't know this. Where is my Myrtle Fillmore? Well, I can tell it to you without having to have the notes in front of me, because I was very touched by it. Myrtle had early on as a child experienced mystical experiences. By mystical experiences, being transported, being touched by something in her visual field around her. She had a tree that she loved to go to, and she would sit under the tree and look up, and she would see the leaves and the sky, and she would experience that the leaves became alive to her. There was an energetic emanation. She didn't use those words, but she saw something beyond just the leaf. And she would do this as a way, she just loved to do this. She could transport herself. She could move from the physical into the ethereal of the moment. She was able to allow herself to be transported by nature. This is number one of the avenues that I know into mysticism, because I want to leave you with a couple of ways that you can reawaken and reaffirm in you how to get to your own mysticism. And the first one that I want to share with you is the one about nature. The ability to reawaken in you, because the child really knows. Do you know when you were a child, you knew how to do that? There are children who even see little angels, or they have playmates, or but they are able to see an expanded reality. So that's one way, is nature as a helper, as a friend, as a means to explore it. And I know people among us who are starting now with spring in the air, going out and making your walks again. But I would like to invite you to think beyond the physical benefit of your walking, and to take a moment when you see a crocus coming out, or one of the early flowers that are blooming. I really invite you to welcome a moment of saying, this is the potential portal for a mystical moment, because that flower is alive. That flower is a miracle. And as much as you can see it, the reflection is, I'm a miracle. There is no middle ground. Martin Buber is one of my favorite philosophers. Has a beautiful recollection of the second item that I want to say is a very, 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 very good portal into the mystery of mysticism. I know you can read up on all the mystics from Eckhart to Charles Fillmore to Myrtle, but today I want to share these two doors. There are other doors into it, but they need to become doors. And the second one is our interconnection with the four-legged world, with our pets, with the animals. That doesn't mean that you have to have an animal in your life right now or a pet in your life, but there are the birds in the air that are starting to sing, or there are animals in your neighborhood. And here is a recollection from Martin Buber. He was a remarkable philosopher, Jewish tradition, famous Jewish theologian. And here is a recollection into the mystery of a mystical experience. He had a grandfather who had an estate, and he would go there for his summer vacation. And when he was 11 and visiting his grandparents on the estate, he stole unobserved into the stable whenever possible. And he would gently stroke the neck of his favorite horse. He called it my darling, a dapple gray horse. And he relates, it was not a casual delight, but a great, certainly friendly, but also deeply stirring happening. If I am to explain it now, beginning from the still, very fresh memory of my hand, I must say that what I experienced in touch with the animal was the other, capital O. The immense otherness of the other. which, however, did not remain strange like the otherness of the ox or the ram, but rather like me, draw near and touch it. The horse, even when I had not begun by pouring oats for him into the manger, very gently raised his massive head, ears flitching, then snorted quickly, as a conspirator gives a signal meant to be recognizable only by his fellow conspirator, and I was approved. So I would like to say this for today, for the coming week. Yes, we have a foundation of metaphysical principles. Nothing wrong with those. They are there. They can be worked with. They are actually enjoyable to experiment with. But you are a group of people who are moving now, especially because of COVID-19, into a more global understanding of interconnectedness. Last week, we were with 20 people from all over, not in one sanctuary, but from all over. And some of us really just felt like when we said goodbye, some of us said, we will miss you. We will miss you. And so this interconnectedness it's really imposed on us. We're learning it. We are learning the technology of how to make it possible. But just think for a moment with how many ways you have learned in this year to reach out to a spiritual teaching, to a spiritual message, to a spiritual speaker, to a spiritual preacher. You are practicing multisensory technology in yourself. And it is bringing you to the threshold of being modern day mystics. And in the immediacy of being in the moment, we are practicing that in our noon meditation. I want to leave you with these two portals. Think of them as portals. You can walk through it. You don't have to. One is nature, being transported by lying under a tree, looking up, sitting on a bench. Maybe at the moment being in Montreal, you don't want to lie on the ground. Maybe you just sit on a bench and you look up and you let yourself be touched. There is life, energy, vibration in all that you see in nature. The life force is pulsating through it. And the more you learn to see it, the more you learn to feel it, the more you are taking a moment to do it, the more you are activating it in yourself, on your DNA level, on your cellular level. All is interconnected. And the second portal is our relationship with nature through the animal world. Some of us have pets, yes. And I, even to this day, remember exactly and feel it in my hands what it was like to touch and stroke Ruby's fur. It's imprinted, it's in me. But of course, I had this mystical relationship with her. I allowed myself into a relationship that I knew at some point would break my heart. But that's, those of us who have pets, we all know they will break our hearts one way or the other. Portals for the mystical means being brought into the moment and realizing there is no middle ground. You straddling this one way or the other, here and there. Yeah, we have a physical body and we are spiritual beings inhabiting it. But the practice and the realization there is no middle ground. The idea that all is miracle is a wonderful way. I think it comes from the Course in Miracles. And Einstein said it, and I think it was taken over by the Course in Miracles. You either believe in miracles and all is a miracle, or nothing is a miracle. And the same thing about our interconnectedness. So I leave you with these two portals. And we are going to take now a time of meditation. I invite you to come to your discipline. Come to your breath. And as you come to this, allow it to be an initial letting go. You're bringing your basket of preoccupations with you. You're bringing your sorrow, you're bringing your sadness, you're bringing whatever is on your mind. And you are not alone. You are in a fellowship of other spiritual students who are sincerely on the path, sincerely bring a spirituality into everyday life, sincerely and dedicated more and more to walk a life of with and of spirit. And in this fellowship of being a unity student, you have these grandparents, or maybe there are even great-grandparents, who gave birth to the teaching out of a experience of healing, an experience of deep meditation and exploration of the relationship between matter and spirit. Charles Fillmore meditated for hours on whatever he read and meditated on it to see how he wanted to incorporate it, how he wanted to weave it into his beliefs. And Myrtle was just living the life of spirit. Everything she touched, everything she did was part of the miracle. that started with her healing. We are meant to carry this forward. We are meant to carry this into our lives. We are meant to carry it from the reality of our lives where we stand in that truth. Our God is love. Our race is human. Our religion is oneness. And thus I stand. And now we are brought in closer contact with each other. We can see each other. We can be together every day. We can bring in what Charles Fillmore calls this regeneration of the teaching. It is not a denial of the old. It's a rebirth into new. And I invite you now in your meditation space, in your own holiness, to see those two portals that are helpful to practice this transcendence. To sit in the presence of something in nature and allow yourself to see the energy field behind it, the life force pulsating through it. And the same with the four-legged world. And those that don't have pets, look up, see the birds, see the squirrels. The life force is pulsating in them. If you ever held a little bird in your hand, maybe it got injured or it flew into your window and it's stunned, so you go and pick it up and you feel the pulse of the little heart. Powerful. That pulse, that life force. And so in our fellowship, in the recognition of our consciousness in spirit among us, we send out beams of light. We send out beams of light to all who spontaneously come to mind. And we know light travels fast, and light carries divine intelligence and gives and brings whatever is needed in the situation. Learn to see how the light does its work without you having to know what the individual has need of. You are standing in the light. You are a lighthouse right now. You're vibrating lighthouse. And when we touch, when we are together in consciousness, we pulsate out, strong enough to touch the city. Pulsating out across the globe. And we are not alone in seeing this, imagining this. The moment you accept the miracle of your own beingness of light, you are connected to the others who believe and know and imagine that too. All that takes place in an instant. This is your free choice. This is your free will. This is your service. And so we are grateful for one another. And we come back gently, opening our eyes. I stop recording now. I want to